Good evening, everyone. My name is Abeyo Tisdale. I'm the programming assistant at Charis Circle, which is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books and More, the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm so excited to be here for All of Our Exes, a poetry reading about all things lovers and past flings. I'm going to get us started. Oh, we're not doing bios. So I'm just going to do a couple of housekeeping things before passing it over to our host. For folks in the audience, please feel free to use the chat as you have been already. You can drop comments, favorite lines, reactions, emojis, lots of love for our readers in the chat. And at the bottom of your screen, there's a green button. If you click that button, you can see collections and books from our readers. Feel free to check them out and know that purchasing your book directly from Charis allows us to keep putting on free book events like this. So feel free to support us if you feel called to. Okay, over to you, Margot.
Thanks, Abeyo. My name is Margot. I'm actually here with Subhaga because we're in the same town right now. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Happy Valentine's Day. And thank you, Charis Books, for hosting us. You all are so cool, and it's just really an honor to do this reading with you. And thank you to all the poets who've zoomed in for this event tonight. The idea for this reading came to me this fall while I was scrolling Instagram. I came across this post about these cool Japanese compound words. And I checked them with my son's Japanese teacher, and she said they were legit, they're real. So there's a word in Japanese for when you eat, not because you're hungry, but just because your mouth is lonely. And there's another word in Japanese for that particular way that the light filters through the trees in the forest. And there is this other word for the way that all the books you have ever read in your life like make you who you are. So I thought these words were so cool. And right around the same time that I saw this post, I was getting ready to launch my debut poetry collection. And I'm flipping through it and thinking about what poems I was going to read for my first two readings, where my husband was going to be in the audience and my 15-year-old son was going to be in the audience and one of my ex-boyfriend's wives was going to be in the audience. And I suddenly realized that like there are a lot of ex-lovers in the poems of this book. I don't know why it was a sudden realization, but it was. And I thought, there should be a word for this. Like that book's word, there should be a word for the way all of your past loves have made you who you are, like for better or worse. I think that's for real. So I thought, okay, maybe we should do a reading about this. The more poets I talked to, the more people said, oh, I have a whole book about that. Or I have 400 poems in a drawer about my exes. One of the first people I thought of was Keetje Kuipers, because of her most recent lovely, gorgeous book, Lonely Women Make Good Lovers, which you should get immediately if you don't have it already. But also because Keetje was the person who made me fall in love with poetry when I wandered into her class kind of accidentally back in 2017. And so thank you, Keetje, for doing this with me and coming up with more people to read with us. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I feel like almost all poems about exes are love poems, so it seems so right to be doing this on Valentine's Day, and I'm really excited to hear all these poems tonight.
It's awesome. Okay, so let's do this. We're gonna read in reverse alphabetical order. We're not gonna read anybody's long bios. You all know how to find us on the internet if you want to look us up. So Leigh, why don't you kick us off, and everybody just, when it's your turn, say your name and get into it.
Hi, Leigh. Can you see us or hear us? Let's maybe start with Laura then for readings. Oh,
I'm so sorry.
no, you are all good.
Hi. Shall I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Margot and Keetje, for having me, and I'm so honored to be here with all these readers. And thank you to Charis Books. I have 2.1 poems. You'll see what I mean. And I also wanted to show you my Valentine's Day shirt, which just means it's the right color. Don't mind the shoulder that's taped on. It's like reddish. So there we go. All right, so these poems, the first poem is the closing poem of my collection Freeland, which I feel like you're not supposed to read like the last poem of your book, but oh well. And the book is essentially a book like poem about an ex, and they weren't an ex when I was writing it, so then they became an ex. That happens sometimes. And here we are. So they're all sad. This one's sadder, so I figured we'd do the sadder one first. This is called Revision. There were days I saw myself a peach and told him so. Wrote ripeness so thick I'd have to close my notebook and walk hours, sublimating, hours, or else not sublimate, and write him right after, of flesh, its impossible late summer ready, my late summer indulgence. Now I think idle, not excess, not endless, fervent, urgent, not I will die of infinite want which drives the infinite want, which I thought then, those days curled in my bed, meditating on the miles between his and mine, meaningless in light of the prison's absoluteness, independent from any physical traveling towards. That summer I meant I need, and said everything, and thought, if only, and then, and then, and then. I knew better than to imagine an arrival, but imagined an arrival, knowing an after must follow, but the after became an unliving thing those days when ready was an end, no risk of loss, no rot. Ready meant the end of want, I thought. I sent a letter thinking he could feel my tremble in the letter, that unliving thing made living with enough desire. All that my heart longs for, fulfill, sang Sappho, desires servant, or, sometimes, chef, if you believe that longing can be fed, rested by the object of its reaching only when the object reached. If you believe that longing can be fed, rested by the object of its reaching if only reached, you are like me, how I was then, when I thought abandoning the reach meant longing one, a hunger so complete and permanent and empty in the shape of him. How cute to think the yearning due to that, a man so fully locked away, the poems so ripe, could almost write themselves. When it ended, it didn't end. The letter stopped, but not the longing, which, I'm learning, in the months and years now gone, is a most natural occurrence. Almost capitalist, if it weren't full of feeling, believing that a thing once gained will heal when it was innate. Insatiable, the peach wanting water and sun, and falling if not plucked in time. The branch will bear again, probably. The remnants of the fruit dissolve, no fruit-shaped hole left in the soil. The me that holds the him-shaped hole I picture deep inside my body is just me holding my body. The want just human, kneeling. So that was the sad, sad one. Here's my point one poem, which is just the title. This is a recent ex. I actually told Margot, thank you for creating this event. I just created a new ex to read about. So here's just the title. I should have known when I wrote this. Explaining how I think about nation states to a boyfriend for whom war is a special interest. And here's my second and last poem. And I just want to say it's not written as X here because at the time we were together and I haven't edited it out yet. So there's that. And there are mentions of neurodivergence and substance use disorder. And I want to acknowledge that, like, wherever one lies on the spectrum of who's allowed to talk about certain topics is a legitimate concern. And I rest assured I am a member of the neuroqueer faction and am deeply mentally ill. So this is all said in communal jest. The title is the first line of the poem. My autistic not boyfriend. Oh, also we were together 1.5 years and I couldn't call him my boyfriend. Yeah. Okay. My autistic not boyfriend says I'd make for a compelling character on Love on the Spectrum. Generally not a reality TV fan, he obliged when I invited him to watch an episode. I was curious how he'd respond to the near mirror. Have you heard the joke about peer diagnosis re neurodivergence? If you haven't, this isn't for you. I've been diagnosed that way more times than I know, but the neuropsychologist at 21 completely missed it. Wrote, in response to my falling asleep during a one-on-one interview, would benefit from better sleep hygiene. My not boyfriend describes his childhood. I was never in class, I just wandered the hallways. Parents tried putting him in sports, finally settling on diving. I don't get the point of a team. He's a complex systems geneticist now. I don't know what that means or if I'm even right. He has a lot of computers and the computers always show a lot of numbers in cascading columns. Ageism is real, he laments, when considering his job prospects post-postdoc. I'm a decade older than everyone. Born in 81, I don't register the weight of our 9-year age gap outside of when he talks about the decade I haven't lived he spent doped up on who knows what. He says he's not an abolitionist because drug court saved his life. And how could I argue with that? Parenthetical, I could have argued with that and I should have. I'm aware I'm telling his story in my poem despite it not being my story to tell. This does not align with my values. How to explain the blur between our bodies, the lack of edge I've always suffered between myself and the other. The inevitable blend, how another person's experience moves through me so viscerally, it becomes a part of me, like how a mother's immune system is forever changed by the fetus. But I'm not a mother, and there is no biologic phenomenon to describe my permeability. I'm a sieve, but without webbing to catch the mass. I wear tinted glasses to dim the din. Everywhere I go, I see too bright all the devastating me's I could be. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Can everyone hear me? I was worried. Okay. Okay, and thank you, Leigh. That was really beautiful. I just saw among the attendees that I have a student here whose name is Grace Ann, and I was giving a reading this fall, and I tried to read this poem for her, and she wasn't there. So I'm now going to read it for her. Oh, I forgot to say my name. I'm Laura Reed. This poem's called Before Whistler. And if I have enough time, I'll read one more. And if I don't, I won't, because this one's long. Before Whistler. Before we even sat down at the table, after not sitting down at any table together for more than 20 years, Jen said, "I thought you were mad at me about Eric." This was the first of many startling things. One was the fact that our Thai salads came as only a bed of lettuce with chicken pieces buried like secrets underneath, and we had to ask for the other toppings listed on the menu, and the server sullenly brought a small bowl of almonds and julienned carrots and green onions. It's hard to know what it's okay to ask for. In the hours we sat there watching the dark cover the river and fill the windows, Jen told me the story of her marriage, the years of watching her husband drink away time, something we all want to get rid of and hold on to. And she apologized for this too, saying she hoped it had not brought back painful memories of Eric, whose other qualities had been obscured by his addiction and what he had done to me in that little white house in which Jen and I lived together our senior year of college. But it was only a year, not a marriage. Jen showed me a picture of our house, which is gone now. So when I walk by the grass where it was, the wildflowers that grew up around our front windows are just ghosts of wildflowers that you can choose to believe in or not. My eyes go to the garage, which is where I lived. I chose it because it had its own entrance, and I wanted the freedom to come and go without anyone knowing, because I like it when one hand does not know what the other is doing. I had not thought how cold it would be to sleep in a garage, how my boyfriend would have to seal the windows in plastic with a hairdryer, and even then I would need 2 space heaters and a hat to sleep. Jen shows me a picture of me, turning my head in surprise at being photographed because I am only vacuuming. I'm wearing that black Angora sweater I liked even though it made me feel guilty about the bunnies. Why is there a crucifix on the wall? How holy were we? And there's the couch with the green and peach pillows and the very small television on which all my roommates watched Days of Our Lives at lunch while I went with my boyfriend to the cold garage. Jen is talking, and I am walking back through that house, taking things out of the garage and handing them to her, things I think she might want. Like the time right after we graduated when she broke up with her boyfriend on the phone, just after he'd given her a ring with a ruby and a diamond. She told him he had been a crutch while she rocked vigorously in our wicker rocking chair like Whistler's mother might have done when she was young. When my boyfriend broke up with me and I watched him walk out the door of my garage for the last time, I wept for days. I tried to be quiet, but once I told Jen I opened the bathroom door after a shower, and she had left me a note and a muffin on a pretty plate. Did she remember? She did not. Take it, I said. And the time we trespassed and swam in the pool of this very hotel and got caught and ran through the parking lot soaking wet and laughing, and the 60s party when we all wore turquoise dresses, and the night she spent at the art studio drawing beautiful hands in charcoal and her own hands, which we called her old hands because they were wrinkled even then. Okay, I think I have time to read the other one. Hope so. This one's called Is It to Preserve the Heat of the Body? Sometimes that flamingo your grandmother stuck in the mud of your Midwestern yard comes to me like an old friend, and I am full of what is not quite longing, as it would not hold up under examination of what I really want, but something that resembles it enough. The woman next to me on the plane and I have a silent agreement. She can twirl her hair endlessly while I bite my 4th fingernail. We both look straight ahead and do not talk, even when Dion comes to ask us what we'd like to drink. Dion, who wants us to call him Dion. So I feel like somehow we are close. I get the red wine for the drama, the red filled to the lip of the plastic cup, the kind of cup you are sometimes asked to pee in. By sometimes, I mean like when a child might be inside you, which is important to find out. No one is inside me now. Once I went to visit you in Omaha where the flamingo stood on its one leg, famously. We don't know why they do it. Is it to preserve the heat of the body? One scientist has devoted his entire life to studying this. I think that is a great use of a life, and I am wondering what I have done with my own. I know I haven't seen you in a while. You're a pilot, so you could be flying this plane I'm on. I think it would be difficult to sleep standing on one leg, but then I am not a flamingo. I also would not like being pink or plastic or sitting in a yard trying to be cheerful and remind everyone that there are other places with other birds, fantastic pink ones who do things we may never understand. And also, we may never see the real ones. If I do see you again, I might ask if you've looked in the mirror and thought your face has grown so different, but it also has stayed kind of the same, and wondered which thought is right. We will probably never see each other again and have that moment when you say nothing, but think of the whole life you didn't live that sits inside the one you did. This is probably what the flamingos are doing. I know that is where I go when I close my eyes and pull my body close. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Rajiv Mohabir. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to come and share some poems with you about exes on Valentine's Day. What a great idea. I'm going to be reading some poems from my collection Sea Beast that came out in September of last year from Four Way Books, and these are going to center whales in the North Pacific Ocean, as well as kind of telling the story of my recent divorce from my husband. And we were together for 10 years. And the relationship ended kind of abruptly. It was not my choice. And I think you'll hear a little bit of that story here. And the first poem that I'm reading is called Bryde's Whale, and it's spelled Bryde apostrophe S, whale. So on paper, it looks like you could say bride or, and I thought that was like an interesting thing about the title and the name of this whale. So Bryde's whale. A catch-all species scientists believe others belong to, like the misnamed Omura's whale or the Gulf Bryde's whale, pronounced Bruda and not bride. The two known species differ only marginally in skull shape and veil color, but there is so much we do not know. Like who will be renamed when more information emerges from the depths into anchovy shoals, or when two men marry and diverge? What will it look like to re-download Grindr or Scruff a decade after I first put myself inside you? What will I call you tomorrow, the next day, in 5 years? You were once beautiful as my bride. The name for us, changing and changeable. A wedding ring, a bottomless basket. One of the things that, uh, represents a kind of like intimacy that I had with my ex while writing this book, was, going through the mammalian life in the ocean, and thinking about the various ways in which precarity kind of like exists in our queer lives, but then also like the tenuousness of relationships. My next poem that I'm going to read is called California Sea Lion. And it used to be a joke that he was like, yeah, you can be a whale, but I'm a sea lion, because he was from Southern California. And God, if you're from Southern California, like, maybe God bless you. Or, and I mean that in like a derogatory kind of way. Just kidding. Am I? I don't know. Anyway, California Sea Lion. Your howlings begin plaintive, then roar. You muscle, joy and sinew to wend from rock into blue delight. Shaitan, you twist to unhook fish from men's lines cast. The casters hate your ears but dress wives in your fur. They profit from your wind, a foreflipper, and swish. I am 3/4 tired of performing for crowds, you say, and dive. Imagine before plumping to 770 pounds, you feared the element that allows agile grace. I want buoyancy like you, immunity, but as a man of war, a squid, mythic and pursued. Once your hands were opened to my hands. I gave you a carved stone, red and gold, like rays bleaching your beard. I wanted your teeth to puncture my bone. Be valiant, pup, glide and gambol, bark and clap match amid aquatic crash. Good, free boy. The sea will change you, not into barrels of oil, but into floundering bliss. No one will inflate your streamlines into catamaran. Sealing season is done, so free your flip among kelp beds. Flop on the sand. The sea crystals on your fur, on your hair of flax. King of mischief. Oh, cheating lover. I often think about the cruelty that we learn, from our emotional and sexual interactions with people who, we love so intensely that then become strangers to us, and the kind of ways in which we learn to hurt each other, and where that kind of comes from. And I think sometimes that, the desire after being hurt is for revenge of some kind. And this next poem is called Iberian Orca. If you all remember, a couple years ago, in off of the Iberian Peninsula, there had been accounts of orcas attacking fishing vessels. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a great moment for whale life in general to wreak havoc on humans that seek to deplete the ocean's resources. So this poem is kind of inspired by these news sources, and it's called Iberian Orca again. Following the bluefin migration with their own languages, dialects, and cultures passed from elders to youth in a cycle of learning that humans cannot understand outside of terms such as mimicry and subhuman. This subspecies swimming the northern Atlantic in matriarchal groups revolt against patriarchal lines dangling in the water, extending to the new form of hunting. Scientists are split as to the reason that draws the killers to damage the vessel's rudders and to sink fishing boats, play or revenge. A behavior whale watchers fear will spread across the damaged world despite archetype, residents, mammal-eating, transients, and those deep dwellers. When off the Shetland Islands too, an orca rams a yacht. Or at least we understand it as a need for justice. Humans plot revenge ourselves, our impulse to see the world as we are. When a hornet stung my head, out of want, I bought a smoker to stun its kin underground until I could flood them out with soap and water, drowning them until the earth no longer hummed underfoot. Don't ask me where I learned this thirst, this cruelty. My first sub blowjob, video games, or marriage? Thank you all so much for your time and attention.
Hey, y'all. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to read 3 poems, one poem that I read a lot at readings, and then I'm going to read 2 that I never read at readings, but they're just so particularly about exes, and they come with some dirt that I thought would be fun to dish. So these are all 3 from my most recent book, Lonely Women Make Good Lovers. And there's a picture of me without any pants on the back. I got a spray tan for that photo. I did. Excellent choice. The Magician at the Woodpile. The blue tarp is covered in little pools of water that shimmer like sequins everywhere a wrinkle has gathered. I pull it off with a flourish and start digging through the kindling and logs until I find the dicks, all of them hidden in the back of the pile. The dicks I took in my mouth, the dicks that didn't ask permission, the dicks I loved, and the dicks I never really knew. I remember holding them in my hands, how soft the skin, how various the shapes, and cooing to each one, "You're the most beautiful dick I've ever seen," as if wonder were the only register my voice could work in. Now I stack the wood the way the dicks must have learned at camp, with the kindling at the bottom and the big logs on top. I add the dicks last, like a little pink crown of thorns. Then I light the whole thing on fire. I expect to see spiders come running out, rats even. I expect to hear screams, but there's nothing, just a fire making me warm, even as the sun goes down at my back, everything but my face suddenly in darkness, like I'm performing a magic trick, like the magic trick is me. So this next poem is sort of a combination of a bunch of exes of mine. I put them all together in one poem as if they're one person. And if you want to see some pictures of those exes, you can go to the link to my Instagram that I just dropped in the chat. I obscured their faces, so they remain semi-anonymous. But one interesting fact is that almost all of my exes, either their fathers died when they were young or they were estranged from their fathers. So, I mean, what does that say about me? My therapist and I have never gone into this, but it is a little fact that appears in this poem. Googling my ex. Not because I'm still in love with him or because I wish him ill. Not to smirk by the insomniac's light, scrolling through photos to learn if he's lost all his hair or if his wife has managed to pull a child from the flawless silk top hat of her womb. I do it to see him beyond that red truck he drove, or the way I thought I looked climbing into it, past the stories of his dead father and the fantasies I liked to make of holding that grown boy's weeping face. I look now as I never could back then, when I too wished so badly for one person in the world to see me for myself. I look now to witness him living a life, a beautiful one we never could have imagined together. I'm going to read one last short poem. This was maybe one of the last poems I wrote before I sent the book off to my publisher. And the story behind this poem is that I had, well, a lot of my exes are fiction writers. I never dated poets. Deadly. Two poets together. Oh God. I mean, I know some people do it, but not me. I dated fiction writers, which that didn't work out very well either. And I dated a fiction writer while I was a Stegner fellow. And, and I can't believe I tell this story. So we were both going to AWP that year, and as one does, but we had like different flight reservations. And so I think I was flying in on Wednesday and he was coming in on Thursday. So we were flying separately. And we went, and I had a great AWP. He and I had a great AWP in the hotel room, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we got back from AWP, he broke up with me because he had met a woman on the plane to AWP, and then he married her. But it all worked out. It all worked out. We weren't supposed to end up together forever. We were supposed to like hold a place for the person we were meant to be with. So I think of that ex very fondly, and this poem is for him. Eating an orange before getting out of the swimming pool. A sweetness so concentrated, it's over almost before it's begun. The heated accumulation of fragrant peels on the wet concrete's edge, like those months we passed together, and the ants that now pleasantly feast there. Doesn't each brief pleasure deliver us to the next? Lover, lover, your wife and mine, waiting to meet us on the other side. Thanks, y'all. Happy Valentine's Day.
So good. Hi, everybody. I'm Margot. I'm reading from my debut, The Unreliable Tree, came out in September. I'm also going to read 3 poems. This first one is for Mark. An opening. The wind is blowing across the freshly plowed field, its raw ropes of furrows and its little creatures, earthworms, cutworms, wireworms, slugs. The wind blows up the road through the madronas and cedars, shakes the catkins and rattles the tired old rose hips in the hedgerow's thorny arms. It brings gold dust to sift across the back porch, the black chairs, the blue car. Coming up from Barney's Pond, the wind brings the frog's night song, the tanker's horn, the sparrow's morning briefing. It brings the salty brine of low tide, the sharp tang of snow, and a memory of driving to the mountains in early fall, the ranger warning us if snow fell, we'd be stuck till spring. The wind snapped the thin sheet of our tent all night while we tried to sleep, and the small bag of provisions swayed from its rope in the trees. When we woke, it was to a pink sky and the late summer flowers, paintbrush and lupin, the wind cold against our cheeks. So Mark and I dated in our 20s. We still live in the same city and we have many mutual friends. So we see each other every so often. And the last time I saw Mark was in the fall when we were celebrating his 50th birthday. And I'm going to celebrate that birthday myself in 2 days. And I just think it's like the coolest thing about getting older is having these long relationships over time. The shitty thing about getting older is you lose people. And this next poem is for Ben, who I hooked up with in college. If someone says Catalina, I think of this one low-slung, corduroy-wearing, cello-playing boy, his gold hair swung like Janis Joplin's, like a tiki bar curtain, the fringe of a flapper dress across my leg. Together in a twin bed, I was a window, and that hair was a shade, and the tassel, from my neck to my navel, pulled itself down. That boy played like nothing I could afford, a 20-year whiskey on the rocks, the melt of a glacier pooled at my feet. Now someone says Catalina or cello or cancer, and I'm there again, singing over his requiem. Tassel and tongue, shade and shroud. Was it the hair or the hands, the sound or the shape of the sound? I'm saying this so that you help me remember him, so his mother knows that night is accounted for. And the last poem I'm going to read, thanks for all the birthday wishes, everybody, is about running into an ex on the street when you haven't seen each other in a little while and you're living in a totally different city from where you were together. Little backstory on this one. I hadn't talked to this person in, 20 years, maybe 30, I don't know. And we got on the phone a couple months ago, and he was just as sweet as could be. It was so fun to catch up. And he very sort of sweetly reminded me that I didn't actually break up with him. He just moved to Portland. And I then sort of explained that I was just trying to fit a rhyme scheme. Anyway, we had a cute laugh about it. Before times. When I run into an ex, I have to say, this one's for you, Benton. Before times. When I run into an ex on the way to the DMV, it's fall, or maybe spring, I can't say. But it's one of those days you go back to school, or skip school in some small revolt. He's wearing a white t-shirt, and if I'm telling the whole story, you'll have to know he looks a hell of a lot better than when we dated. So I'm all having a moment, questioning my past decisions, the spiral of my life on 8th Avenue between 4th and 5th Street. And the fact that maybe part of why I dumped him had to do with the red Chevy, festooned with plastic animal figurines, the dash, the hood, and the shelf behind the back seats, where in a taxi you'd find a box of Kleenex. You'd see it and think, who drives that beast? Those were the days of grunge, before the tech, when we all still said hi. There was a naked parade, and no one wore a skin suit. Dicks and tits hung loose, flapping in the wind as the cyclists cruised the route up 34th through the neighborhood where I lived, where Dee and I lay on a futon and laughed, exploring each other's orifices like dogs, shamelessly, used every word to ask, and this, and now? And there were pieces of love, but it wasn't love. It was the right thing for the moment. And now, in all senses, it's some real universe bullshit that we're living 10 blocks apart. And since he has the day off, he comes to sit with me on a bench at the DMV in a windowless basement in Brooklyn. While we're there half the day, he tells me he's in love with someone named Esther. Years later, he'll marry her. But on this day, we sit in that room and play cards together while I slip my papers in the half-moon tray and take a number, wait for someone behind the bulletproof glass to say, take another. And I feel only love. I don't remember the fear of that year or the fear of the years that hover before and after. I remember the windowless room, and outside all the free books on the steps of stoops, flowers in buckets at the bodega, his arms where the shirt stops and the skin begins, the ziggurats of oranges, the way I buy some and carry them home carelessly in a flimsy plastic bag. Thanks, everyone.
Good evening. I'm Richie Hofmann. It's been such a pleasure to listen to these poems tonight and reflect on past loves and to feel hope for future love. Thank you to the organizers and thank you to Charis Books. We need indie booksellers more than anything, so I urge you to support them. I'll be reading 2 poems from my new book, The Bronze Arms, which just came out on Tuesday. Men's Beds. I was promiscuous, with my feelings most of all. Under stars, I sprayed saline solution into 2 wine glasses and took out my contacts. I didn't want summer to end, but it did. Many lives happened inside those walls, and for a season, I wore a designer hoodie and got iced Americanos every morning. I slept in men's beds. They took turns breaking me. It felt good, but one's absence weighed on me like a death. Late summer blurred feelings together with rain. At least I wasn't going to be lonely. I moved around the city, buying paperbacks, putting sunscreen on my neck. Who hasn't yearned for a stranger? The trains were free. I mean, no one checked your ticket. A love poem called Breed Me. My sweat soaked the sheets. You used to be like everyone else, but then the way you hurt me, fingers, teeth, I grew accustomed to it. Then I craved it. Then I got bored, and other men tried to put death into my mouth. Angelic Richie, with bite marks, in such a clean room. I deplore clutter, but I do like flowers. A tall drinking glass filled with peonies, the color of underwear. I like hard and classical, the ceiling black like Caravaggio's wine. Through the blinds, obscure gods shined, making the outlines of my body a kind of emptiness. The ceiling fan pushed heat around, even though it was snowing outside. You forgave my love of surfaces. It's not a tragedy we couldn't have a child. I had a pain inside me, and I needed you to deepen it. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Chen. I will read 3 poems, I think. thank you all so much. It's great to be a part of this. I'm going to start with a poem that I kind of forgot that I wrote. It's called Asian American Weather Forecast. It will snow. In a cozy corner of a college library, somebody will hold somebody else close while saying, "I love your culture." It will stop snowing. Somebody will walk all around campus, up the big hill, then down, before returning to their dorm's common area to say, "Hey, Cantonese, it's not Mandarin." It will be hot out. Somebody will shout in Mandarin to somebody else on a bicycle going to lunch, "You're hot." Somebody will try again in Korean with a big smile. The heat will break. Somebody will realize at the gym, in the dining hall, by the pond, how their body is not a body, but a shiny, forever mirage to some whose bodies get to say, "Oh wow, your hair, can I touch it?" while touching it. Being fetishized is being told, "Can I touch it?" Being told, "But I just like your features so much, what's wrong with that?" Being fetishized is to be that. Studied at length in detail by somebody who can't stop smiling. To be liked so much, not loved. It will rain, but it will be the right temperature for me. I will be my body in a raincoat I got myself. I will have thrown out the raincoat he got me in college. I will have stopped thinking of that raincoat every time it rains. I will stop by a pond to listen to the rain greet its cousin. This next poem is called Solstice. How unimmediate the word immediately, its polysyllabic unsuddenness. It has been a molasses week in a molten world. Underwhelmed by myself for the umpteenth epoch, I turn to Microsoft Word to ask, do I need a personal poem or a personal pizza? Microsoft Word loves me, would like me to download its freshest many fonts. I don't need you, men who call me needy. Frolicsome men of toothsome nipples. I am needy. Better than thinking you need no one while needing work and a freshly color-coded refoldering of your inbox. I need a man's goddamn merry nipples and some better words out of his mouth than, "Actually, I'm not mad," while he fumes by our magnet-skinned fridge. Actually, I should be a less forgiving font, not Garamond, which prettifies every sentence no matter how many rational men rationally stew in it. Garamond. What happens when the soul decides to rebrand as something visible and especially beautiful when italicized? Once my father told me I was soulless for loving men, ugly for wanting that beauty, and as though women were providers of men's souls. Once a man who loved being called daddy told me I was beautiful inside and out, and it was like Garamond-flavored pizza I did in fact eat and found cliched and am eating. Actually, I need Microsoft Word so much, I am begging it, this stormy yet broiling first summer night, not to leave me when my university subscription expires in 6 days. Let's not be hasty, I say, using a much more immediate adverb for my urgency. Let's not say anything we'll regurgitate later as knives. Don't go back to that pristinely double-spaced field of other Microsoft Words. I promise to download every fugly to mediocre font you require. To put your secret favorite word rimmingly in a poem. To write better, or at least in more fonts. To work on our relationship, because this is my longest one, and I don't know who I am without the fiery squiggles of your fleet attempts to fix me. And I'll read one more poem that's about like a friendship breakup, which in my experience has hurt much worse. This is called Brooklyn is for Breakups. I fell down a wish, and your goof skedaddled, and I wish it mattered. I fell so backwards right into my own heart, like a great diver blessed by a different gravity, and I wish it mattered a single second. A single sorrow can keep falling. Did you know that? It can fall through stone, steel, your spine, any matter forever, just a small, small, earthling sad. You could thread a sigh through the eye of it, but why would you? Not a boyfriend, lover, not even 6 months knowing each other. What was there to know but my spine? Do you remember the bagels, my red jacket, your own unkempt mustache that morning of our eventual let's forget about this? You remember, but do you think about it? Do I miss you, or do I miss not thinking about those days? Seed after seed fell from my very much everything bagel, and I thought I'd never run out of things to wish on. The dreams got stuck between my teeth. Didn't you see them? Why didn't we talk about that? I can't remember another morning so early. So early it sounded like night, like me calling for you across the avenue, calling you my friend. Thank you.
Hi, I'm not Margot. I'm Subhaga Crystal Bacon, and I'm just visiting with Margot today because she's visiting here close to where I live. I'm going to read 3 poems from my new book, A Brief History of My Sex Life. I've been partnered for a very long time. All my exes are way in the past, as you will hear. And starting with the title poem, A Brief History of My Sex Life. At a party in 5th grade, we decided to practice kissing. Some of us had to be boys. I slid so comfortably into the posture of my father on the couch with a girl nestled in the crook of my neck. In Scouts, I was mad for a different girl. We camped in a house of empty rooms. By flashlight, I stroked her golden hair. One Sunday night in middle school, my mother ironing in the basement, I proudly showed her my new shoes called Date Bait. What, she said, would you do with a date? Steam hissing. On and on like this it went, painfully dateless in high school, except for the hop sophomore year with a boy whose father ran a meat shop. Junior prom, my brother's 22-year-old friend. Senior prom, my best friend's cousin, fresh from the Marines, who clutched a pack of Cools in his hairy-knuckled hands. Hooked up by God knows who with the fey hairdresser whose mascaraed mustache left black smears above my lip. My brother announced that there was just no chemistry between me and men, which did not stop him setting me up with his friends, who groped and dry-humped me all the same. Not that I hated it. Ever since I learned about erections, I wondered how they stayed up. I found a device in my mother's nightstand drawer. I imagined a sling for a soft penis. It was a bunion stopper. The properties of blood, how to start it, the satisfying lift and bulge pleased me. My first divorced fiance wanted to wait until we married, would press himself against my hip on parting, leave a cum stain on my jeans. When I lost my virginity at 19 to the second divorced man, 12 years older than me, I was a ready student despite the monthly fears of conception. My mother's mother told her, do more than hold hands with a boy and you'll get pregnant and we'll have to go drown ourselves in the lake or your papa will kill us. To me, my mother said, sex was a chore, despite the way she later mourned my father. My fiance wouldn't go down on me, he said, because it would turn me queer. Too late, I should have said. Too few the times he doled out those rare pleasures, confused. On the blind date disguised as an after-work party to introduce me to the big rangy girl whose sultry voice I loved on the corporate telephone, I said, if I were queer, it would ruin my life. But oh, how sweet her kiss in the summer night, drunk We were drunk on that release. We were children still who lived at home. Her parents sent her away, cut her off from what she knew. We grew up after that. The next time I saw her, she extolled the virtues of cock. I was broken then, some newness in me, worn thin. I did Google her, my first love, not that long ago, and boy, she looks great. She went into insurance like her sister after their father. So this is a short poem. It takes its title from the Queen Diane Seuss. I was the new thing, then just a thing. Diane Seuss, Parties Among Strangers. She was blonde, voluptuous, and unreliable. I was a toy in boys' pants and shirt, a skinny brown belt that matched my polished shoes. She found me cute, invited me into her bed, where in boredom she asked, "What do you like?" As if I knew. Later, I heard she said I was a lousy lay. She pretended for years she was dying. It's been 40 years at least. I was nothing back then to myself, seeking a life in other faces, other bodies. And this last one, I do remember this person's name, although I will not say it. I haven't looked her up forever, but in memoriam of past rain. Once I spent a frigid weekend in a dank, unheated room in Atlantic City's Hotel Byron, back before casinos pushed out the indigent veterans of many wars. Memorial Day, parades of the old in uniform, their peaked hats over solemn faces, walking or wheeled, the last surviving soldier from this war or that, flags of cloud, bullets of drizzle. In the mildewed room, a woman I taught to find her clitoris an orgasm. That war she fought within herself. What country she claimed. Old, old now, this remembering. A lost name, a slim, almost childlike body, locked against the knock of pleasure. The beckoning street, the salty, rain-drenched night slick with broken light. Thank you. Thank you for including me in this wonderful gathering tonight. Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Charis Books for hosting. I loved hearing these poems. I feel like, our sort of cultural perception of exes is really negative and bitter and full of sort of regret and animosity, but that's not been my experience. My experience has been one where with each year that passes, I feel more gratitude for each of those people that I loved and who loved me, even if that love was flawed and painful and ended in disaster, which it generally did. I still feel like each of those people lit up my life, and I loved hearing these poems tonight. And I feel like I could hear that in so many of them. So thank you to everybody who read tonight. And thanks, Margot, for putting this together.
Thanks, Keetje, for helping.
Have a lovely Valentine's Day, you guys. I'm in a hotel room in St. Louis, and I thought I had packed some old Halloween candy to eat tonight by myself in celebration of Valentine's Day, and it's not in my suitcase. So now I have to go find a vending machine. But I hope you have a better Valentine's dessert than I'm going to have.